Hey everybody, welcome to the Jiu-Jitsu Therapist Podcast. My name is Eugene. I'm your host. Today I'm joined by Joe Clark, who is a buddy of mine, a guy with tons of knowledge on strength training, fitness, nutrition. He is a former bodybuilder. He's a CrossFit coach, a CrossFit competitor. He's also the co-owner of Derby City Mixed Martial Arts and Grindhouse CrossFit. He's got a ton of knowledge on injury prevention, strengthening, diet. Just stick around. He's got some great information for you guys. Can't wait for y'all to hear it. I'm here with Joe Clark. Joe, how's it going?
Good, man.
So the purpose of kind of the podcast is kind of, I want you to kind of talk about your credentials, just your how you got started in training, lifting, all that kind of anything and everything.
Okay. Just very simple. Growing up as a kid, played a lot of sports. Fresh out of high school, had a college scholarship. However, I decided to join the military. I was more fascinated with what I could do there than anything else. Being in the military, I grew a great love for fitness while I was in there. It was probably my favorite thing there. Once I got out of the military, I pursued even further. While I was in the military, of course, I participated in bodybuilding shows. Getting out, same thing. Did that for about 10 years. While I was doing that, I learned that, especially in the bodybuilding world, the hardest thing was the nutritional aspect, not the training aspect. So rather than pursuing another degree in a physical field, I pursued one in nutritional science. Further pursued that and getting my master's, eventually going on to get my boards. And from there, I continued to train, evolving my training into more of an athletic preparation versus bodybuilding. So I'm involved with CrossFit, powerlifting, Olympic lifting, and evolved from there with CrossFit certifications and other lifting certifications to them.
What sports you play growing up?
Growing up, I played every sport. Basketball, football, basketball.
Did you do any, like as a young kid, did you do any kind of like training? I mean, what did you do to get yourself better?
Man, I was a very small and weak kid growing up. And
I can see that.
I really was. And I mean, like, I know when people meet me now, it's not really the first thing pops in their head. But I was a very small, fragile kid. Man, I think I graduated high school at 125 pounds, maybe. And I always wanted to get bigger. I wanted to be stronger. You know, I wasn't going to grow up. I was about as tall as I was going to be, so I wanted to grow out. So I worked always on getting stronger, and I developed a big passion for just weight training.
What did you do, like, in the military? What kind of stuff did you feel like that they focused on that maybe was benefited you, or you feel like that really caught your attention?
The military's version of training benefited me at the time for the military because it's more monostructural, cardiovascular gymnastics style movements. There's not a lot of weight training.
Sure.
So that's carrying a rifle and a rucksack. It's just, a lot of running, push-ups, set-ups, squats, set-ups, more push-ups. Their training involved around 3 scores, running, push-ups, set-ups. All that's great, but like as far as physical preparedness, I don't think it really helped me as much as what I do now.
So when you got out of the military, what did you did you just pursue bodybuilding or kind of powerlifting?
Fresh out of the military was very strict bodybuilding for a long. See, I got out.
What did you do? I mean, how many hours in the gym did you spend?
Man, to be honest with you, bodybuilding would be 2 to 4 days a week, anywhere from 2 to 4 hours a day.
It's insane.
It's very boring. Looking back on it, very, very boring.
You're training for you're not training for function. You're training for
and compared to what I do now, it's very, very different. But being one of those individuals that's been in both worlds, I feel very comfortable talking about the two, the benefits, pros and cons, versus just breaking one down and tearing it down.
Well, what do you feel, as far as, start with bodybuilding, what do you feel like are the benefits? How can that benefit you besides looking bigger or looking, having a better physique? How does that benefit you? And
very, very easy answer, actually, because when it comes to bodybuilding, there's a lot of isometric movements. And you are strengthening and working on a lot of small muscle groups and ligaments that a lot of other training programs don't even acknowledge.
Okay.
For example, a lot of muscle groups in the shoulders. You're doing a lot of different variations of shoulder presses, shoulder fly. I mean, everything you could possibly imagine in bodybuilding, you're finding variations to do to build that muscle group, to build the entire muscle. It's to where, let's take CrossFit, for example. They don't do a lot of isometric training. It's more like, okay, today we're doing push press or clean and jerks or snatches. And there's a lot of small muscle groups in those movements that don't get the attention to detail that they do in bodybuilding. So you've seen in that a lot of people who with backgrounds in just bodybuilding lifting styles have transferred over to CrossFit, and they have a much more natural base strength than those individuals that have only done CrossFit.
Okay. Yeah, well, so, I mean, so you kind of got the basics of, you really get good technique, I guess, with lifting mechanics. Is that what you're saying? So, I mean, do you feel like, I mean, overall you got stronger? Did it help you in any kind of performance or anything else you were doing?
Bodybuilding?
Yeah.
As far as performance-wise, not even close.
Right.
The best way I can word it to people, and it depends on their goals. I'm not bashing it. I don't want people to think that. While bodybuilding is a illusion of fitness,
okay,
while sports performance is fitness. It actually tests and quantifiably measures if you're in shape. Bodybuilding is how I look, how I, in a mirror versus on stage, and how people are judging me on how I look. But I feel horrible.
What do you feel like? What do you feel as far as the diet goes? I mean, what went into the diet calorie wise? Protein, carbs, that type of thing. I mean, and what's good? What's bad about it? I mean, I know you're kind of cutting down once you're starting to get into your peak time.
Man, like the one thing I can tell you about the nutrition in bodybuilding is it's what burned me out. It wasn't the actual training, it was the nutrition. It was day in, day out. It's 24/7, 7 days a week.
Same old shit.
Yeah. At one point, man, I was eating 15 boiled eggs a day. Not the yolk, just the boiled eggs. I was eating 7 in the morning and 8 at night. I've developed quite a hate for any type of egg now. I don't even like looking at them. But with bodybuilding, especially, depending on the season you're in, whether it's, season prepping for a show or bulking or cutting or whatever you're doing, you're always constantly tweaking your diet versus in, the carbs and the fats and the proteins.
Right.
You're always actually, and it does focus around those 3 nutrients, which most diets do, but those 3 specifically. And you're always, okay, well, I'm gaining weight where I'm not supposed to, so I'm going to have to cut back in carbs. I'm not gaining muscle mass the way I'm supposed to. Now let me add more carbs. I'm getting hungrier. Let me add more fats. So it's with bodybuilding, it's not like just one template, here you go. It's a constant tweak, and you have to follow it verbatim. There's no adjustment whatever. You can't go out and have a piece of pizza. There's a lot of sacrifices with bodybuilding.
Sure.
Whereas the performance training, there is still a lot of sacrifice. There's more wiggle room in the nutrition play.
No, that makes sense. What kind of got you out of bodybuilding? What was the... Was there in particular? I mean, you said you got burnt out on the diet.
I know it's going to sound weird to people, but it's more the self-reward. I wasn't feeling a sense of accomplishment with bodybuilding.
Did you have any success, like at competitions? Or
Man, like it was very small success with bodybuilding. Like my heart, looking back on it now, I didn't really apply towards bodybuilding what I do with CrossFit. Like the passion's not there. It was more of okay, I have to do this to get this ideal body that I want to do. Even though I'm researching, I was training nutrition, and I know what's good for me and what's not. I'm still doing it. It just wasn't, the self-reward wasn't there until I started participating in CrossFit.
So you got out of bodybuilding. How'd that transition go? I mean, what'd you do in the meantime? Because I know, did you jump directly into CrossFit?
It's exactly how it happened. My brother-in-law, he asked if I wanted to work out with him that day. I said, well, I'm doing squats. He said, yeah, come up to the gym, we'll do some squats. And he's at a CrossFit gym, we're doing front squats. And so the day I walk in there, yes, I'm still doing bodybuilding because I'm just going to squat.
Right.
Well, I start doing front squats, and these guys come over to me, and they're like, have you done this before? It's like, you mean front squats? They're like, well, CrossFit. I was like, no. So I do front squats with them in a workout, do very well, and they tell me to sign up for the Open, which is the CrossFit Worldwide Open. And
what year was this about?
2013.
Okay.
So I had trained, we're 16, 13. I've been training now for, 15 years. So I've been training for 10, 12 years up until this. But it's more bodybuilding style.
Traditional kind of weightlifting. Yeah.
So I signed up for the Open, and on my 30th birthday is when I signed up for the Open. And so I've been doing CrossFit since. What do you,
the differences? I mean, I know you're doing a lot of combined movements or complex type.
It's very hard to explain the differences to people with CrossFit that's not experienced. People that's experienced, it's very easy to. So with bodybuilding, it's a lot of talking in between reps and a lot of slow reps, and there's really not a lot of development there or any quantifiable means of improvement. Where CrossFit is always a quantifiable mean. You're always chasing a higher score, more weight. Okay. It's either you can do it or you can't. The biggest thing that I like to word to people, the difference between the two is when you do a traditional bodybuilding style workout, and if that's your goal, that's fine. Right. There's no problem with that. When you leave the gym, there's always this feeling that I could have done more today. Okay. I can tell you, looking back on bodybuilding, there's not one day that I worked out that I left the gym thinking, man, I could have done more. Because I always could have. What's kind of like CrossFit, though, is you leave the gym like, how the hell did I survive that?
Well, what about as far as like reps? I mean, I know you do how many, say, a certain exercise, 4 to 6 reps. Mm-hmm. How many sets would you do? How much break time would you take? I know there's kind of a science you want to really rest your muscles.
There is, and it's very hard to, wow.
Just give me a general exercise. Give me chest press, like bicep.
I do the programming weeks in advance. Okay. I don't do day-to-day programming. Now, some days, based on how you feel, you got to adjust some things. Okay. But it seems like we're talking specifically about weight training, so we'll target that. With weight training, I don't really do much adjustments simply because we follow weightlifting cycles. Right. Okay. I'm a big fan of the Wendler method. He starts off going 5-5-5 in a low percentage. Next week's 3-3-3, then a 5-3-1. Then you got a deload week, and then you repeat that with weights increasing over a 12-week period. At the end of that 12-week period, you go for a 1-rep max. I really love his cycles.
So you do that for CrossFit a lot of times?
Yeah. With the weight training it goes, I mix in that a whole lot.
Okay. I got you.
But where it's always... It's a quantifiable means. If you're improving, the percentages are always going up. You're chasing more numbers. So the next week that the numbers go up, if you're not able to hit those numbers, you're not improved. Or maybe your body's just shot or your nutrition's off. There could be numerous things that go wrong.
So the one thing about CrossFit, a lot of things you'll do for time, you'll do reps for time, that type of thing. Do you see a higher prevalence of injuries if you're kind of... Because I feel like I've done some CrossFit, and I feel like as I got fatigued personally, I feel like my mechanics would suffer, and I would.
That's any sport. That's not CrossFit. Any sport where you're tired and still trying to perform at an optimal level, you're risking injury. That's any sport. With people need to learn that there has been a huge separation between CrossFit fitness and CrossFit the sport. Okay. There's a huge separation between the two. With CrossFit the fitness, you see minimal injuries because those people are there just to work out, learn about working out, have fun with the community that they're working out with. Right. It's just basically people suffering in a workout together. Right. Now, then you run into CrossFit competition where these people are constantly trying to improve and they push themselves beyond the limits of fatigue, beyond the limits of what they're capable of. In any sport where you do that, you're risking injury.
What kind of stuff have you dealt with? I mean, I know you lift a lot of heavy weight. I mean, Joe's not a small guy. He's got always mess with him about his quads because he's like the freaking biggest quads I've ever seen. But what are some injuries you see or that you've had in CrossFit or what you've dealt with and kind of recovery wise?
As far as like long term or short term,
or anything, man. Anything you see, tweaks, I haven't whatever.
Me personally, I've not seen anybody with any long term injury, nothing that ain't rehab. Okay. The main thing that I see, and it's across CrossFit in general, and it comes to the programming with a lot of people, is usually stuff with their rotator cuffs or their teres minor. It's simply because people are trying a lot of kipping movements before they've learned strict movements. And this goes back to, I say, where bodybuilding, specifically shoulders, and they target a lot of those small muscle groups and strengthening those muscle groups are ready to do kipping movements versus somebody who's not.
So describe, like, if you can, if people don't know, what's kind of a kipping movement? What is a kip type movement?
Kipping movement, basically using a lot more body momentum and hinge movement to pull yourself over a bar versus a strict pull-up where you're just using basically forearms, bicep, lats to pull yourself straight up.
If you're doing a pull-up, you're kind of using your legs and hips to kind of, and a kipping movement.
And I don't want to say swing. A lot of people say swing, and it's not, because if you're swinging on a kip, you're actually doing it incorrectly. Right. It's a very controlled hinge of the hips to project your feet, and your feet fall on, and then the rest of your...
Okay, yeah, it makes sense. So
it actually has to do a lot more with flexion and extension of the shoulders to perform the movement.
Makes sense, yeah.
Versus just... A strict pull-up is pulling with your lats.
So when I learned a kipping pull-up, I had never done one. It was basically hanging on the bar and trying to kind of push my chest forward and back.
Yeah, and again, and another word for that, if my arm, you're using extension and flexion. So extension is my arms are behind me while I'm holding onto the bar. And once my arms are in extension, I'm now going to move my arms to flexion, pushing onto the bar. Right. And now I'm going to pull myself up, chin above the bar. Now we're going to go back to flexion, pushing ourselves off,
So arm in front.
and
Got it.
extension under.
Do you, what kind of benefits from kipping movements? Do you feel like those can kind of help? What do you feel cardiovascular-wise have a good benefit? Or
let's look at it like this. It's a much more functional way to do pull-ups.
Okay.
Because let's say, when people you see people make fun of kipping pull-ups a lot. And I like to give a very, very one-rep scenario. You're hanging off of a cliff. You're going to die if you don't get up.
Sure.
Are you going to strict pull your ass up there? Or are you going to kick, scream, and whatever it takes to get over that bar?
I'd say so.
So, moving weight's moving weight. If you're 100 pounds and you move 10 strict pull-ups, did you actually do more work than the guy that's 100 pounds that did kipping pull-ups? You moved the same amount of weight.
Right, but
one just moved more efficiently. Now, don't get me wrong, there are strength mechanics that play into both.
Sure.
But it's also a very bad idea to do a high number of rep of strict pull-ups versus a high number of rep of...
Do you think, as far as because there's, like shoulder press type exercises, do you see that's why you see maybe a lot of overhead motion? Is that why you feel like there's more shoulder injuries?
I feel that the number one injury that I see in CrossFit all around would have to be with individual shoulders. Okay. And a lot, again, is just improper mobility, trying to do stuff that their body's not ready for, improper mechanics, improper strength training.
What do you like to do for mobility, like shoulder mobility, hip mobility? Is there any in particular?
Everybody has the longer someone trains, and this is with any sport, the more realistic they come with their own ritual.
Right.
As far as training, me personally, I like the pretzel stretch. It's probably my go-to all the time. I don't do as much foam rolling as I used to, versus more of a dynamic workout on my rest days. That's when I do a lot more foam rolling and tissue work. We got a massage therapist at the gym. I have her work on me a lot. But I do a lot more mobility warm-ups versus just like
more
stretching.
like a dynamic type.
Yeah, big fan of dynamic warm-ups.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Chewy and I were talking. Chewy's the Jiu-Jitsu instructor at Derby City Martial Arts, and we were kind of talking about just warm-up and different stuff like that. And I think just dynamic, you're really kind of warming up the tissue, getting the stretch receptors ready, getting yourself more primed for...
It really comes into play on workouts, too.
Sure.
Because, if you hit, let's say, Fran, that's a very popular CrossFit workout. Everybody knows the 21-15-9 thrusters and pull-ups. If I go warm my heart rate up to a portion of what I'm about to experience, it's not going to send my body into shock. Versus if I go stretch, then hit this workout, all of a sudden I'm in the middle of it, my heart rate jacked up, my body's not ready. My body's going to go into shock. I don't mean shock shut down, but it's not going to perform as optimal if it was if I hadn't warmed it up ready for that situation.
It's kind of like warming up, I tell people, like warming up your car, if on a cold day. So you're getting, that way you're not...
It's a very good analogy.
You're kind of gradually getting your heart rate up.
Yeah.
No, it makes sense. That makes sense. So, how did you kind of make your way to the gym? How was the process with you? So I remember being here and then seeing you just start coming around a little bit, and then you're more of a staple in the gym. How did you kind of find your way to the gym?
I've been in and out of gyms as far as buying them and selling them and training in them, like I said, for 15 years. This gym, I worked for a consulting firm. We went around, we helped other gyms progress and help them fix some mechanics were going on inside their gym on a business level. We were contacted by the owner of Derby City at the time. We come out here, we talked to him, and it wasn't nothing really we could help him with that he wasn't already doing. So It worked out great. But, I'd been training boxing for a couple years, and I wanted to try jiu-jitsu and boxing. But I came to Derby City for boxing. Come here, I did boxing. I did one class in jiu-jitsu and immediately got hooked. Started coming out here every day. It's like a 45-minute drive once I got off work. So I came out here and helping these guys every day, and eventually I started working here and helping out. I did that for about 3 or 4 years, and then me and Chewy bought the place in early 2015, and just been training here ever since then too.
So tell me about, this is for me being a jiu-jitsu guy. I love jiu-jitsu. That's kind of my passion as far as what I think about, what I do. What drew you in? What was the thing for a guy that's like a big dude that can't even really fit in some of the gis because his legs are so big? You're huge. I know rolling with you on the mats, and it's very infrequent because you haven't been doing jiu-jitsu recently. But man, you had a lot of strength. And what drew you in?
Honestly, man, it was just the competitive nature. Like, I'll be one of those guys, man, like 80-year-old. in a wheelchair. I'm going to be trying to beat the other 80-year-old in the wheelchair. The competitive nature and the camaraderie around it. It was probably, out of every sport I have ever participated in, it was the most addictive sport I've ever done. My problem arrived, now could not take my own advice, is overtraining.
Sure.
Because I couldn't be half in one, half in the other. I was doing 2 to 3 hours of jiu-jitsu a day and then still 2 to 3 hours of CrossFit a day, and I was breaking my body down.
Right.
I was risking a lot of injury. I wasn't just risking injuries. I was basically injuring myself from fatigue and, I just dumb stuff. So I had to give one up than the other. And where CrossFit's a passion that I want to pursue
Sure.
and continue to grow in, I chose to give up jiu-jitsu.
How long did you train jiu-jitsu for?
About a year and a half.
A year and a half. You competed some?
Mm-hmm.
What did you like about the competition scene? As far as going to a tournament?
As much stuff as I've ever done in my life, I was like, I'm not going to be nervous. And I wasn't nervous until I stepped out on the mat, and then I was a freaking nutcase. After the first match, the nerves went away, but I think that first match in jiu-jitsu may have been one of the nervous points of my life, mainly because I can't remember ever training for something as hard as I did for that first competition. I mean, I cut down from 196 to 170 for that. I'll never do that again.
Yeah, it's probably not the,
yeah.
For jiu-jitsu wise, probably not the. When you need some cardio in there, you don't really want to.
I did really well. I got first place.
Awesome. How many matches do you have?
5.
5? Awesome. Yeah. That's great for a first turn. That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot of experience. So what'd you feel like about jiu-jitsu? What'd you feel like you were good at as far as based on your build? And
with jiu-jitsu, man, like I was good at top.
Of course.
Like holding big guys down, and like me and some of the other guys here have ongoing jokes as anabolic locks.
That's right.
I was my big things were Kimuras, key locks,
just the bro stuff,
the bro stuff.
Submissions. Yeah.
I'm admittedly very weak with a bottom game. I could get out of their guard, but I didn't want to have somebody in my guard because the only thing I would do is usually sweep and try to get top.
And that's great. I think it's. Being a jiu-jitsu player, I think you kind of go based on what your body, what your physique. If you're longer, I feel like longer limb guys, longer arm, longer
guard
legs,
game.
they play guard a little better. If you're shorter, stockier.
Yeah, for me, it was hard to even wrap people in guard. Basically, my legs were around them.
Well, your legs are so damn huge. So, did you? So you kind of just gradually made the transition back to full time doing CrossFit, and then you started competing more in CrossFit, or
in roughly late 2013, early 2014, I started with some new training partners, Lindy Barber, who's a games athlete, and John Esposito, who's a regional athlete. Started training with those guys, and they introduced me to a whole new world of competitive training for CrossFit. So I was really good at the everyday class stuff, but a whole new world with competitive stuff. So really started pursuing that.
And that's when you kind of opened up the CrossFit side to the gym, or what?
We opened up the CrossFit gym for here. January 5th of 2014, we originally opened up CrossFit West Louisville, but we quickly changed that to Grind House CrossFit. And it's January 5th, 2014.
So as far as like people that do CrossFit with you, your students, how do they, as far as competition goes, how do you get them ready? How do you get yourself ready for a CrossFit competition? I mean, how does that differ to you from going into a jiu-jitsu tournament versus because you've done honestly, it's almost like you're competing against
very
yourself.
Similar. It's honestly very similar because I'll tell you why. When you get ready for a jiu-jitsu tournament, you are training like basically a training camp, right?
Right.
So you're doing the same thing with CrossFit. When you go into a jiu-jitsu tournament, you know you're going to be doing jiu-jitsu.
Sure.
It's when you go into a CrossFit competition, you know the workouts.
Okay.
And unless you're very high level going to the games where they do the surprise workouts. When you go to these CrossFit competitions, you know the workouts. So what I'll do is, as soon as I find the workouts, one, we're going to run those workouts. We're going to see where everybody are, strengths, weaknesses, time you can make up, transition times, everything else. Then we're also going to run variations of those workouts to see how that affects you. Maybe we can split the workout up a little different. But basically, it's essentially the same. You're going to go through training camps for competition the same way you would for any other sport.
How do they, like, as far as scoring or points or whatever in CrossFit, I mean, I know you have a certain amount of weight. How do you choose the weight, the reps, the time? How does all that come into play?
It's a very broad question.
That means I don't know a shit ton about.
Essentially, I mean, like most places score it like golf. Lowest score wins. First place, 1 point. Second place,
okay.
Third place.
Well, how do you choose? Like, does everybody have a designated amount of weight they lift?
If you're doing a 1 rep max, then you're going to do what you can do.
Right.
I'm going to do what I can do. First place is first place.
Got
There's no weight categories for it. If you're 300 pounds and I'm 100 pounds and you outlift me, it's just, that's how it falls.
Right.
But that being said, it's also going to be harder for a 300-pound guy versus a 100-pound guy to do 100 pull-ups for time.
No, it makes sense.
So that's where that comes into play.
How'd you feel? When was the first time you competed in a CrossFit
My
competition?
first competition, the only person I told about it was Chewy. He's the only guy in the gym knew I was competing. It was my first competition. It was late 2013. I'd been training with John Esposito for a while. He helped coach me for it. And I went in and took 3rd place.
How are you nervous for that? You nervous? I mean, what'd you
honestly,
feel?
I wasn't, man. I actually went home and I left work a little bit early, went home, took me a nap. I got a little nervous in the first event because it was a movement that I hadn't really practiced a lot. And still went out there and did just fine.
What do you feel about, like, jiu-jitsu guys, if they want to do CrossFit? How do you think CrossFit can benefit jiu-jitsu guys, and how can,
I don't feel full on, like, this is where it comes into play. A lot of people think that CrossFit is a training methodology, is CrossFit.
Right.
I believe there's aspects of CrossFit that would help any sport, including jiu-jitsu.
Sure.
Especially the mobility aspect that a lot of CrossFitters put into application that jiu-jitsu guys should. So whereas the strength training could help a lot of the jiu-jitsu guys as well, not as much of the metabolic conditioning, because I can tell you from firsthand experience, mat wind is a lot different than a workout.
Sure.
The stress levels, the compression people setting on you, it's vastly different. While it does help benefit the other, I would like to see, like you're a jiu-jitsu guy. So if you came in, and there was squats that day and then a 20-minute Metcon, I'd say, Eugene, do the squats and then go out there and do some drilling and rolling for 20 minutes versus this Metcon. Because
and people don't know, what's a Metcon?
Metabolic conditioning.
Okay.
Yeah, metabolic conditioning.
What's metabolic conditioning entail? I mean, just for example, like if
metabolic conditioning. I mean, that's actually what we identify as our workouts.
Okay.
Instead of everything workout, it's just one of the things CrossFit does.
Just kind of like
it's verbiage.
combined, just certain.
So metabolic conditioning, would just be the workout that day. Now there are different types. I like to mix. We mix anaerobic, and capacity conditioning here a lot more.
Give me an example of a Metcon you will do.
For today, for example, it's a 200-meter run, 10 chest-to-bar pull-ups, and 5 clean and jerks at 205 pounds.
And you're doing those in succession for time.
Rounds. Yep.
And you're just doing as many as you can.
Yep. Okay. Well, I'm doing 5 rounds for time.
5 rounds for time.
Yep.
Okay, got
so
it.
you'll run 200 meters, 10 chest-bar pull-ups, 5 clean jerks, 205, and you'll repeat that for 4
reps. 5 times. Got it. So as far as, like, if you could look at maybe pick a couple of CrossFit exercises or just lifts in general, any kind of lifts, what would you say for jiu-jitsu guys to improve their strength or anything? Any specific lifts that you think would help?
I mean, always deadlift, because especially if it's taught properly, is one of the more beneficial. Deadlift and squats. As far as the Olympic movements for jiu-jitsu guys, power cleans are okay, but I try to get them to stay away from very technical movements like snatches and split jerks, stuff like that. So I try to keep them in the basic category, that basically the least amount of time they have to suspend into that lifting portion to get the maximum benefit out of them. So back squats, deadlifts, front squats, push press, chest press. Actually, I don't have them do chest press. I have them to do floor press.
Okay.
From their back a lot more. But those movements benefit as far as overall strength and development goes for jiu-jitsu players versus where CrossFitters are doing, snatch complexes, overhead squats, dumbbell and kettlebell snatches, different movements that they need for competition and growth and experience that jiu-jitsu guys really, I'm not going to say have no business doing, but really have no need.
No benefit to improving their game. Well, what do you think as far as, is there a certain type of cardio, do you think, for jiu-jitsu that you feel like would benefit, or even for CrossFit that will, interval training? For me personally, I feel like I do a lot of interval sprint work. And I don't know why.
Sprint work is phenomenal. I love putting people on the assault bike.
Yeah, that thing's awesome.
If done properly in proper intervals, that thing will beat you down. After that, I really like a lot of sled work. Okay. Sled pulls, sled drags, mainly because they don't have the eccentric loading that you do when you're doing basic squat movements. It's really good for leg repair, overall strengthening development, people with bad backs and stuff. And you can do a lot of sprint intervals with sled. So my favorite two would definitely, especially for those competitive guys with mixed martial arts, is Prowler and Aerodyne.
As far as if you're doing CrossFit, what do you think a good amount of training? How many days a week? I mean, do you suggest that people do skill work? I mean, I know you guys do skill work every day, and then you kind of do, it all builds off itself, but do you suggest, if you're starting out, or even if you're doing jiu-jitsu and CrossFit together, is there a certain number of training days?
Yeah, that also goes back to, like I said, being honest with yourself as the type of athlete you are and the capacity in which you can train. So if I'm a beginner, 2-3 days a week is fine. What I see more of is people coming through the door right out of the gate. They want to be where everybody else is, and they think to do that they got to train 5-6 days a week, training both, break their bodies down.
Sure, yeah. And
so it's basically being honest with yourself, what type of athlete you are and where you're at. There's days that I'll have multiple workouts planned, but because of everything else I've done that week, I also have to do damage control. I'm like, you know what? I have to back off today so that I'm able to complete the rest of my training this week.
What kind of stuff do you do on rest days? What do you like to do? I'm
big now. I used to take full rest days, and I do take that one day a week, and that's usually on a Sunday. Thursday is my active rest day. My active rest day, I maybe take my daughter to the zoo, walk around a lot, maybe do a rowing workout, something light with light gymnastics or body weight movements. Nothing like, I'm not even working up to 80% capacity. I'm staying way below 80%. Just flushing out lactic acid, moving around.
Right.
And I've found that helps me more than taking out a full day off. I'm not trying to get a full-blown workout. I'm not worried about, times and calorie counts or anything like that. Just to keep my body moving and fluid and just pushing out all the soreness that I can without actively adding more to it.
How many days a week do you think you train? I mean, you say hard training.
Well, CrossFit. I follow a template with my training, and the template evolves each week. So, you got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday are essentially the main 4 days that I train.
Okay.
Saturday I do group training with people and travel training, so I don't count that one in. But Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday. So the way it works is I'll have workouts Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, rest day Thursday, Friday. So the following week, Friday now becomes Monday. Monday now becomes Tuesday. Tuesday becomes Wednesday. Okay. Wednesday becomes Friday. And the following week after that, it'll evolve the same way. Essentially, Monday and Tuesday are pretty solid days. We're talking anywhere from 3 to 5 workouts if you count everything in. Then Wednesday's tapered down substantially. Friday can be another ball buster, and Saturday for me is always to be determined. Because
that's how you feel.
It's not only how I feel; it's where I'm at. Some days I go to a gym, train with a buddy, or seminars, or just wherever I'm at. It's very hard to program around. I do make sure to do something. It does always feel better that when I'm at my home gym and I can program what I need to and what I have to and what I've not covered that week. That's always fun, and I try to manipulate the situation wherever I go to do that, but sometimes it don't work out in my favor.
So what if a jiu-jitsu guy wants to come in and do some CrossFit, what would you recommend? Say they train, for me, I train Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, so I do need some rest days in between. What would you recommend as far as CrossFit goes? On alternate days, would you do?
I wouldn't recommend alternate days. I would say same days, but again, that also falls within the capacity in which you can train.
Right. Because you got to have time to do it. And
because
how much rest time.
And I think anybody can give you a generic answer, and I don't like giving generic answers because I don't like feeding to everybody when we're talking about a specific.
All right, Joe. Comparison. All right, let's talk me. I'm 32 years old.
Okay.
I've been training jiu-jitsu 8 years.
Okay.
About 6 foot 178 or 180 pounds. Right. 180 pounds. Keeping pretty good health, diet's decent.
Okay.
What would you say, Well,
first I'd ask you what your overall goal with your training would be.
I just want to be better at jiu-jitsu. I want to get stronger. I want to have better...
You want to get stronger, but
I want to have better cardiovascular endurance. So I want to be able to, because I'm not a big guy. I want to be able to push the pace in jiu-jitsu.
So your main goal is jiu-jitsu,
sure,
but you want to be stronger.
Sure.
The first thing I'd tell you is we're going to make you stronger, but we're not going to sacrifice your jiu-jitsu time.
Okay.
That being said, you can't get better while weight training will complement your jiu-jitsu. Ultimately, jiu-jitsu makes you better at jiu-jitsu. Doing jiu-jitsu does.
Sure, yeah, you do what you're...
Now, we're going to implement things. I love starting people off in squats and deadlifts, like I said. That's probably my favorite. Eventually, we'll evolve into more complex movements. As far as your intervals and conditioning goes, like I said, we're going to put you on the bike a whole lot. Prowler, sled pulls, a whole lot. there may be days, depending on the progress. So, like, when we would talk, you'd be like, my jiu-jitsu's getting better, but I'm not getting stronger. All right, let's dial back that time in jiu-jitsu just a little bit, focus a little bit more on strength training. Or you're like, hey, strength is definitely getting better, cardio's better, but I feel like I'm starting to suck at jiu-jitsu.
Sure.
All right, we're going to dial that back, focus more on jiu-jitsu.
So you
have to make it individually for the person versus a generic answer.
Right, and I agree with that. I don't...
You see a lot of trainers in all aspects of training. I'm not talking CrossFit. I'm talking jiu-jitsu, baseball, soccer, anything. They give you a generic answer. It covers to a wide field, and that wide field tries to implement what that coach said, and it doesn't work for them, and then they blame the coach.
No, I agree. It's not and I say this all the time, it's not a one-size-fits-all. Nope. I'm a physical therapist, so like
everybody's unique as a fingerprint.
So sometimes, a shoulder injury or a knee injury, no two are alike because there's different, medical conditions that are accompanied with different stuff like that. So, no, I understand. I appreciate that you don't want to give, but you've got the knowledge base, and I think it helps. You got to have whatever goals you want. I mean, do you feel? What would you think as far as if you're a CrossFit guy? Would you? I mean, how did you feel getting into jiu-jitsu? I mean, is there anything in particular you found those really difficult? Say some guys that train with you want to come over to the jiu-jitsu side.
I actually encourage people to do jiu-jitsu. It's a fantastic sport. The only thing that arrives in it is most of the people that I see that want to do jiu-jitsu are competitive CrossFitters, not recreational CrossFitters.
Okay.
Now, I don't mean guys that do jiu-jitsu as a priority and want strength training. I'm talking about guys that do CrossFit as a priority and they also want to do jiu-jitsu. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So those guys, while CrossFit is a priority and they want to compete in CrossFit, they actively want to do jiu-jitsu, and I recommend that.
Sure.
The problem arises is, let's be honest, jiu-jitsu is a sport that you're twisting and torquing on joints and ligaments and muscle groups that can risk injury even further, especially after you've done competitive training in CrossFit to break those down. I don't see many recreational CrossFitters that also want to recreational jiu-jitsu. It's very rare.
Either one or the other.
Yeah, it's and I think most of it's a humility thing. Like you're good at one and you're embarrassed in the other, or so on and so forth. And for some people, it's hard to swallow. You don't see much of it though.
No, I understand.
It's like they want to be 100% in both. And you've got to really talk them out.
If you're
like, focus on one.
upper belt in jiu-jitsu, then you go and you're like basically the beginners in CrossFit, or you're a coach or one of the guys that's got a great knowledge base in CrossFit.
I mean, me personally, the reason I quit CrossFit was the
jiu-jitsu, you mean?
Fear. Yeah, I'm sorry, jiu-jitsu was the fear of getting injured.
Sure.
Like, even watching people now do knee bars and ankle locks, all the other stuff I'm okay with, but those two scare the living shit out of me.
Well, and it just depends on who you're with and if they have
but
knowledge. And you got to have, it's in jiu-jitsu, it's actually a pretty safe sport. You got to have the wherewithal to know that, all right, I'm in a bad spot, I got to tap, or...
That's true, but the type of person I am, I could never go back to jiu-jitsu and not compete.
Yeah.
And then there's the fear of somebody coming into a competition and getting one of those, and there goes CrossFit for 6 to 8 months.
Yeah, but I don't know, man. I think if you don't ever train it, you will never be good at it, or at least if you don't ever train it, you will never know how to defend it. So,
yeah, this is the way I look at it now.
No, I understand.
Especially with the level of competition that I do now.
Right.
Is if I have an extra hour a day to train,
what are you going to do?
Should I really be focusing on jiu-jitsu or my priority, which is CrossFit?
I understand that. As far as like diet goes, I mean, anything in particular, how would you adjust a diet for training CrossFit or even jiu-jitsu? Anything?
That's one of those things. It's also individual. I see a lot of people, there's a lot more carbs and fat that go into a CrossFit diet.
Okay.
I know a lot of people follow zone diet. I tried that. Does not work for me.
What is the...
zone diet's blocking out your carbs, protein, fats based on your individual body composition and weight. So, you get 4 blocks of this food and this food and this food. It's actually, it's a lot. It's easy for people to follow. It's not a diet. Yeah. It's not a diet per se of you can only eat this food, like paleo or nothing like that. I'm anti those. But there is a lot more for me. For example, because of my energy levels, the older I've become, I found out that I need more fats in my diet.
Okay.
Like normally to compensate for those, I will put coconut oil into my coffee a lot.
Okay.
But there's a lot more fats and carbs that go into play with a CrossFit than there is bodybuilding.
Okay. No, that's fine. What do you, if somebody's fatigued or had a long day, anything you recommend as far as like a quick meal or a snack or something to give you a little bit of energy?
If you were fully fatigued, first of all, when you come in here, I probably won't let you train that day.
Well, but say you got a long day at work, something like that.
You're
just kind of, energy's a little low.
Usually I try to have something that's not too heavy on the stomach and light. You probably don't want to know what my go-to is.
What's your go-to?
For me, raw oatmeal.
Raw oatmeal.
I will eat a half a cup of raw oatmeal and drink it with water, and usually put protein in my coffee.
Just like chew it.
Yeah, it's one of those military things. Like I've learned a very long time ago to eat for fuel versus for flavor.
Yeah.
But tell people
sounds terrible. Sounds like you're eating fucking dust.
It's weird because it doesn't even bother me. Like where I can see most people like raw oatmeal. It doesn't even bother me. But in a pinch, like I actually keep some organic protein bars, those perfect bars.
Yeah,
I keep a lot of those, even for me. And if I see a friend or somebody come in here, I'll make them eat one. Like here, get your energy level up before you train. And those are full of a lot. Those do have protein, carbs, and fats. They're more fat and carb heavy than they are protein. But those are essentially, when we talk about preparation, about an hour and a half, I'll have mine's usually like 40, 30, 30 carbs, protein, fat, and I've had a lot of benefit off doing those.
So like in your experience, with all the lifting type stuff you've done, with your education background, what do you feel as far as supplementation? Anything that you recommend for supplementation? Anything
just
you like?
The natural stuff, man. Like I tell people, a multivitamin. I think especially, it doesn't matter if you're doing any sport, you need to be taking a sports multivitamin. And outside of that, fish oil is okay. If you're not eating a lot of red meat in your nutrition, creatine is good for those people trying to increase muscle mass. Let me back up there. But essentially, I just tell people the same thing, man. Branched chain amino acids, protein, a powder for a supplement, multivitamin, fish oil. That's it.
When do you like to do creatine? Do you like before, after workouts? Do you like to?
It's a myth.
Okay. And here's the thing. What about like building up, or do you just there's a lot of loading, anything like that?
A lot of myths around creatine, man. What most people don't think is like there's not an optimal time to take creatine. Creatine is so slow digesting. It actually absorbs into the system. It's not one of those things like if you take 10 minutes after a workout, it absorbs quicker. While your body's working quicker, that may be a little bit. But it really, essentially, there's no scientific proof right now that timing has much effect on creatine. So, when I tell people just find your creatine monohydrate, take 5 grams of it a day, whenever you feel like.
Every day, like regardless of working out or not working out.
Yeah.
What about water intake? Do you have to...
Water intake, it's slow, minimal effect. That's another myth. Water intake is minimally affected by creatine. What affects the water intake of creatine when people are taking these creatines that are also very sugar heavy. So it's not the creatine causing the water retention, it's a lot of the sugar causing. Now, creatine does cause the muscle to expand.
Right.
The muscles expand. 70% of the muscle is made of water. Yes, there's going to be some water retention.
So like you may put on some mass, a little bit of weight.
But the water retention most people associate with creatine is this 20 to 30 pound gains, and that's not, and this is from the old days of cell tech that have continuously carried over with us. And it's not the creatine that's causing that water bloat, it's the actual sugars.
Okay.
So just pay very close attention and make sure that creatine is got no sugar in it when you take it. Just regular creatine monohydrate by itself.
Do you like any kind of joint supplements, anything like that? And me being a physical therapist, like the research isn't, from what I've read, and the research isn't good. But some people swear by like chondroitin and all that kind of stuff. What do you think? Is there something you take?
I have tried, and I can tell you, I didn't notice a difference.
Okay, no, that's fine.
Me personally, I didn't notice a difference. What I think it comes as far as joints going, and I can't tell you if you have a lot of sugars in your diets and a lot of high wheats that cause inflammation, especially a lot of people have knees.
Yeah, sugar.
Those cause inflammation in the knees, and you tell people to lay off those. But where I notice for joints is just preemptive strike. Don't wait till there's a problem to take care of it. If you do proper mobility and recovery, then these problems won't arise and you'll be all right. But
just kind of maintenance, regular maintenance, and hopefully prevent preventative.
That being said, some people, they take it and they swear by it. And me personally, I think it's a placebo effect for them. But hey, you can't pay for peace of mind, so more power to them.
I mean, that's fine. Joe, tell me about the gym. Kind of if somebody wants to have any questions for you, if they want to stop by and train.
Yeah.
If they want to, pick your brain, whatever. I mean, they're nervous about CrossFit. It's kind of intimidating, man. A lot of people that do CrossFit,
Actually, the number one complaint I hear about CrossFit is I got to get in better shape first.
Sure.
Very, very simple. When I hear people say that, it's a very simple gag reflex for me. It's like, so from what you're telling me is you've got to get in shape before you start getting in shape. Okay? That does not exist.
They feel like I guess the fear is you see these CrossFit workouts and you're like, holy shit, I can't. There's no way I'm going to be able to make it through that. I don't want to pass out or puke or whatever.
Yeah. So that's where you try to teach people that there is a difference between CrossFit they see on TV and CrossFit as a recreation.
Well, all right, so somebody walks in through your door. You guys have like an on-ramp, which is like basic. Describe what an on-ramp is.
The first thing we do is we have a free week in which we teach you all the fundamental exercises that you'll participate, the basic movements, not the advanced ones. We cover those, but you don't actively participate in them. We teach you all the basics. The good thing here is with me and the coaching staff that I have is everyone's been doing this for a significantly long time, so we are able to progressively teach you, meaning regardless of the fitness level, everyone here, all my coaches have the knowledge base to teach you from the basic step to the advanced step. So even though you're not up here on step 10, we can start you out on step 1. Once you have step 1 down, now we're going to step 2. Eventually you'll get to step 10 if that's what you want to do. But everything in CrossFit, and not just CrossFit, everything in training, if you have a good coach, can be based off progression. Same thing with physical therapy, right? Like there's a progressional table. You ain't just going to start, okay, let's put your shoulder behind your head. No. Just have that thing reconstructed.
No,
let's start with
understand.
movement.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense. And I think one of the things that I always talk about, one of the things that's kept me at Derby City for 6 years, or I don't even know how long I've been here, for a while, is the coaching staff. And everybody is so knowledgeable. Chewy's on the jiu-jitsu side, and Chad on the jiu-jitsu side.
With our coaches here, we're one of the few gyms that your head coaches do this full time. We don't, me and Chewy, for example, we're here 60 hours a week, constantly training and developing people all day long, every day. So it's not just a hobby and a passion, but something we thoroughly do in and out every day. So any type of training it can disintegrate over time.
Sure.
Like, use it or you lose it when it comes to training people.
Well, how can they, if somebody's got questions, how can they reach you? Or how can
they can reach us on the website. You can go to grindhousecrossfit.com, derbycitymma.com. You can give us a call on our phone. It's 937-8797, area code 502, any two you want to reach. Any questions you have around any of our programs, CrossFit, boot camps, jiu-jitsu, boxing, kickboxing, mixed martial arts, kids classes. I mean, we roughly have around 450 classes here a month.
That's awesome. So and I have to vouch for it, man. The best coaching ever. I'm telling you, this is the best coaching in Louisville for sure. I drive.
You live out by
40.
You probably live like 4 minutes from me now. If that.
Yeah, I drive probably like 45 minutes to get here, man. Yeah. I've got I passed like 2-3. I don't know how many CrossFit gyms I passed, but I definitely passed like 3 jiu-jitsu gyms to get here.
Well, they're all over Louisville now, but none are as reputable, I feel, as our gym.
Well, you guys, man, like you said, y'all do it full time. The coaches are second to none, and you guys know your stuff, man. Joe, I appreciate the time, brother. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see you.